This?
It's good. My wife already brought me water.
No, that's very nice. All right, so I'll just do a quick intro. So, hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Bars Radio Podcast, where we're doing a feature series right now called the Art of Intervention Project. And the purpose of this is really just to kind of educate you, the listeners and professionals, on why you want to use a professional interventionist or how are interventions actually done. And specifically, we're talking about addiction interventions here. ART stands for addiction, recovery, and transformation, which are things we're going to talk to our guest today, Rich Whitman, about. So, Rich, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me today. And why don't you give people kind of a 30,000-foot view of who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll kind of dig deeper as we talk a little more.
Well, okay, from 30,000 feet, I look down out of the plane like anybody else does, and I go, wow, it's a long ways down.
Very nice. I like it.
I mean, it's things that look really small down there, and I know as far as families, that's the way they've kept them for a long time. We've tried to keep them small. What do? I work with families. The people call, they want to talk about their loved one, they want to talk about the person who's in trouble and all that. Really try to work with families, and that the families are the solution. We're going to talk all day about the problem. The more we focus on the problem, bigger it gets. So I really try to help them to focus on the solution, because there is one. The same way I do interventions. We try to pull people with a vision. I don't try to push them around with my purpose or their purpose. They already know what they've done bad. They already know all the rotten things that they've done in the world. But what if we were to tell them all the great things in life that you've seen them do? All the great things that there still is to do. As you can tell, I'm passionate.
Yeah. You said pull. You say pull with purpose. Is that what you said?
I pull with a vision rather than push them with a purpose. Because see, here's what happens. We get there and we have a purpose. Our purpose is, and it's also our vision, but we have this purpose of like, we want to save this person. We want to get them in treatment. We want to do this. Well, what about us? Now I'm talking about the family side. What about us? What's our vision? What's our purpose? What are we going to do? What are we willing to do? Taking the individual and putting them away for 30, 60, 90 days someplace is not the solution. It's the beginning part of the intervention, a beginning part of the process. And that's what intervention is. It's a process. It's not an event. It's one that has to take place. And it's much like going to school or anything else. We have to learn the process. We have to go through the process. And so we go all the way through the process before we deliver the process. And much of the time it's done like this, telephonically, sometimes visually, like Skype or whatever. My wife actually uses this medium on Zoom. It's pretty much what we do. We also I listen very hard, very closely. What's the family done before? Many times I'm meeting people, this isn't their first rodeo. They've been in treatment 1 time, 2 times, 3 times or more. Where have they been? What worked? How long were they actually clean sober? What were they doing while they were? What happened? What did they identify? What did they see? Do we really want to go back to the same place and expect different results? Is there something new? Do they need a new experience? Do they need to go back to where people actually know them best? Sometimes that's just what we have to do. But there's only one way I can figure that out, and that's by asking questions.
Yeah, you gotta dig into the deeper levels. And it's when I talk about like the art of intervention, we talk about addiction, recovery, and transformation. And you just kind of described what you see, what an intervention is. But how would you describe those three? Like, what is addiction? What does recovery look like? And then I think a bigger question is, what does transformation look like? So how would you define addiction in your own words?
Well, addiction to me, and that you could base, I am in recovery myself. I cannot make the decision once I begin to use what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you I'm going to show up, I'm not. I'm going to tell you I'm going to stop, I'm not. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to steal your last $20 and I'm going to stick around and help you look for it. That's who I become, okay? This different person. What is addiction? Addiction is far more than just the drugs. Addiction is my entire life. It's everything that I am thinking about at any given time, even when I'm sitting at the dinner table with you. Addiction can also be that I only drink maybe once or twice every 2 or 3 months. But man, it doesn't look good every time I do. And again, binge drinking is as bad as everyday drinking. So addiction is that point in our lives where we lose the power of choice. It becomes very, very important. Somebody who's addicted, they're not in trouble every time they drink or drug, but most often every time they get in trouble, they're drinking or drugging. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. My wife likes to say that addiction is the inability to deal with emotional pain because we're covering up something else that's going on.
Actually, it truly is. It's a physical allergy followed by a mental obsession. We all know this, right? And we suffer from a great spiritual malady. That's where my 12-step program is deeply rooted. It truly is. Biologically, I am different than other people. Why that is, why I drew that card, I don't know. Every once in a while I have a kid tell me like, well, maybe someday they'll make up something that I can drink or drug. Like, son, maybe they will. I'm not even going to go to that conversation with you. Addiction to me is truly what takes you out of mainstream life. I can define, I can read you definitions all day long. But what's the point? The point is, that it's destroying your family. That's what's prominent. It is classified as a disease because it is chronic. Without help, it doesn't go away. Without some type of treatment, whatever that treatment may be, it might be spiritual, maybe going to church, maybe going to treatment, maybe this, maybe that, doesn't matter, but it's got to be treated. As far as on the physical side of it, it has to be medically intervened on.
Most definitely. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways of intervening on situations like that. So the family calls you, they're in crisis, there's addiction going on. We'll get into your addiction story here in a little bit too, because I want people to kind of get to know that part of your life. But so then let's move from addiction to like, what does recovery look like for someone moving into, and I know it starts, in the beginning and can go long-term. That's the goal, right? But what does recovery mean to people that are addicted to something?
Well, to me, and this is what I tell families, your loved one's going to go off and he or she is going to get the help that they need. Right now at home, they're dangerous. They're dangerous, not because they're going to intentionally hurt you or anything like that, but they're dangerous because you can't control what's going on around in their lives and all that, and you're trying to. And so the danger is that they're going to screw something up, they're going to change things in your family, they're going to cause havoc, okay? Now, they go off to treatment, they're going to be armed and dangerous unless you are equipped in the same manner. You have to get on the same page. What does recovery look like for me? It is a family illness. It affects everybody. Just because they have the drinking problem doesn't mean that you don't have a problem.
Well, I'm sure you get pushback from families that say, well, they're the problem. They're drinking, they're drugging, they're gambling, they. Why do I need to go do work? What's your response to that in recovery?
So far you haven't. How's that worked for you? I mean, quite honestly, especially the people that have actually gone to treatment. They go, well, I just don't, I know what I do. I go to church every Sunday. I do this. How many times have you approached your loved one? How many times have you told them this isn't working for you and all? And how effective has that been? What if the two of you were holding one another's hand and walking forward together? Wouldn't that just be an awesome path to walk down? Isn't that a visual that you can take hold of, Mom? That you're going to hold your son's hand again and you're going to walk down the path? Because that's how this is going to work. This is going to work by the whole family getting better. And in fact, Rob, if I don't get the family's buy-in, I pass on the intervention.
Yeah, it's almost like you're just taking their money for no reason, right? Because it's like, hey, if you're going to move back to the same toxic life, the guy's going to relapse, gal's going to relapse probably pretty soon. It's going to probably be worse than before. So I appreciate you saying that. I think that's great for families to hear too, that, if you're not going to do the work, then there's a point to an intervention, but you're not the right guy for it because you do the whole family system.
Right. And I want to stress the fact that I don't do the coaching. I don't do any of that. I tie them into people that do that. The reason that I don't do it is I'm too busy. I can't give them the attention and the detail that they need. So I tie them into people that can. It also sometimes with me gets a little conflictive because it's hard for me to stay impartial sometimes. But it's not when I'm just like, look, what does your therapist say? What does your group say? What are you doing here? Well, I haven't been for a while. Well, again, how's that working for you? You can't expect him to do what he needs to do and you're not doing all that you need to do. Because when you're doing all you need to do, you find yourself in a lot healthier spot, even when they're not. So let's get healthy here. So recovery, again, is everybody moving forward. And recovery isn't always based upon no relapses. Recovery isn't always based upon everything is just rosy, because I don't know anybody's world that is.
Right.
It's just not. People don't cry and scream about diabetic relapses, and they happen a lot. A diabetic stops eating right. A diabetic starts drinking sodas. A diabetic starts doing this. They end up in the hospital. They get all the doctors and the social workers and all of that. And they get a whole treatment plan around them, and all that gets all put together. And then they go happily down the road again and all of that. And then it happens again. And see, people, especially when I'm talking to people about going back into treatment, and I give them that scenario. And folks, that's what I want you to hear, is the fact that nobody says hospitals don't work. It didn't work for that diabetic. Well, of course it did, but they didn't follow the plan. But yet, if you were following a plan and saying, honey, you really can't, and we can't have these sodas around, and this is why, please, what if we try this alternative? You're working with them, not against them.
Definitely. And so what do you see? Because you've been in recovery for how long?
Well, actually, and this is I don't always throw this all out there and all that. I got in recovery in 1982, October 6, 1982. And Rob, I stayed actually clean and sober till March 1st of 2012. There came along little surgeries, medical stuff, all that kind of stuff, focusing on a lot of other things other than my God, my program and everything else, and I fell. And I hit the ground really hard. The lesson that I got out of that was nobody's immune from this stuff, obviously, not even Rich Whitman, who's Dr. Phil's addiction advisor and all this BS and Blanc and Blanc and Blanc, who doesn't make you anything but still just Rich Whitman, another guy, okay? What it did make me after that was more passionate, stronger, more focused on how I can help individuals, and more transparent than I've ever been before. And so as far as been in recovery, I was been in recovery, if you will, for a ton of years. Continuous, again, since September 23rd, 2012.
Yeah. 2000, what year?
2014.
Yeah.
2012, I'd still go back to this for a day or two and go back. And then I'd actually take antidepressants, and I'd cheat on my antidepressants and take 2 at night. And I had this sponsor that I was rigorously honest with. And he's like, "You took 2 at night?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we got a new date. Pick up a chip in the morning." I'm like, "For 2 Depakote? Really?" He's like, "Yeah, really."
Yeah.
Because 2 Depakote will lead into 2 something else. So you're either going to be honest or you're not. Those were the hardest ones to pick up. Because, see, those were the last ones I was picking up. Okay? Those I kept picking up for about a year. I'd get about 3-4 months and then take a couple, I'd do this, I'd do, it's just, and I was BSing. I wasn't honest. So today I can say I have not taken 2 of that stuff in a long time.
Well, thanks for your transparency and vulnerability. That's kind of what this project's all about too, is just saying, hey, the road's not always easy, and recovery isn't always easy. And my story. I mean, I had a mental like breakdown in year 11 of my recovery, which was in 2012. I've been clean since 2001, never drank or drugged. But the recovery piece of that was because I quit doing the things that were good and healthy, right? And so that made me a better person, and like you said, more passionate about what I do now with interventions and recovery coaching and those things too. So I can say that there are periods where I feel like my life was transformed in a sense because I was really in recovery, living life, But what is the word, thinking of addicts here, what does the word like transformed mean to you when someone's like in recovery, they've kind of gone from addiction, they've been in recovery for a while, maintained sobriety for a period of time, but what does the word transformation or transform say?
Me, because I'm also a strong believer, the once was lost, I am now found. Okay. The other side of that is where I was yesterday, I'm not today. Okay. The transformation for me is a complete change, morally, mentally, spiritually, physically. I take care of myself, and I do that by doing all that I have to do. I eat right. I'm transformed in how in what I put in here, okay, and what I take in as far as diet. I'm also transformed in the fact that what I take in up here. The people can't talk about someone else unless that person's standing next to them, not around me. It just won't work out for them. And that if I do let them, and they're talking about a friend of mine, I will, about 2 or 3 minutes in it, go, you probably ought to approach them because I'm going to, and let them know that you got a problem. And so people don't tell me a lot about other people.
Yeah, well, that's huge. I mean, because it's that thing, I tell my kids about this a lot. Like, it's okay for the kids to talk to me about their friends or things they're struggling with, right? But when one of their friends is over and they're saying, hey, what do you know about, like, Christoph? None of my friends' names are Christoph, so I'll use that name. It's like, oh, Christoph did this. And I was like, hey, you remember what we talked about, guys? We don't talk about people when they're not here, because if you do, guess what? Your friend that's here right now might think you're talking about them behind their back when they're not around. So it's respecting those that aren't around. So I hear what you're saying about renewing your mind, taking care of the one temple that God gave you, which is your body, and showing that. And people will see that, because again, I don't know what you were like in your addiction, which we'll get to in a minute. But if people knew your addiction and they saw you now, would they say, man, that guy is definitely different than he was back then?
Oh, yes. I mean, when I was doing a lot of Dr. Phil shows,
yeah,
oddly enough, I'd have people call me who were in my past and pretty much still out there. And they would call, they'd get a hold of me. And I'm like, like, I'll just use the name Joe. It's like, Joe, I know you're not calling me to see how my, Dell stock is doing, and should you buy in? What is it that you want?
right.
And they're like, well, man, I saw you on there. You're all in a suit and all that. What are you doing? And one of my very good friends from the old days called me, and he asked me that. And I told him, he said, I want some of it. What do I got to do? And I said, get on a bus and he was in Colorado, and catch it and come to Texas, and I'll meet you at the bus station, and I'll take your butt to treatment, and you can turn your life around. And that was, oh my gosh, I don't know, 10 years ago. He's still living in Texas. He's in Houston, stone ass sober, and there's no way I would have put $1 on that guy. So I had very little to do with it except being there. That's the other transformation. Show up for somebody today. You might be the only one that does.
Very cool. Well, I'm grateful for what you do. And I've known you for a couple of years, so it's, people are just getting to know you now, but talk a little bit more. I want to talk about like the intervention process. Like, what can a family expect when it's crisis time? They call you and let's just say it's kind of a standard type intervention scenario where there's not a lot of, chaos with a lot of extreme, situations, but just what can people expect from like maybe a standard type intervention process with you, if there is such a thing?
Well, yeah, and everyone is different. You and I both know that.
Yeah.
They all call me at what they believe is the peak of the drama, okay? And yet when you talk with them for a little while, you can see that you can help, placate that a little bit and bring it down to a calm. Not just sticking a needle in their neck and all of that. I mean, like things are bad and we got to respond. Okay, we really do. But let's just say, Dad is drinking alcoholically, he's beginning not to go to work and those kind of things. And Mom's scared. If he knew I was doing this, he would be furious. It's like, absolutely he would be. And you know why? And they always answer yes. My next question is why? Why would he be mad? And they start listing and I start writing. And I'm like, you don't think that he would see, let's look at a different column. That you love him, you're afraid for him, you care for him, he's the husband of your children, he's a great provider, he's a great father. Why would he be mad about any of those things? So let's slow down a little bit and let's look at the good things. And then let's talk about your family. What does your family look like? We start talking about that. I'm like, who's close? What family members are close? What's your ultimate goal here? And we began to have a conversation where like, I can start to bring the pulse down to at least 80 or 90.
Right.
Okay. And get that blood pressure down a little bit. And then I ask the question, if I can help you find a solution so that we're not focusing on these problems, but actually give you a solution, are you willing and open to find it and to follow it? And they always say yes.
How many people break down? I would imagine someone breaking down in like tears when you say that, like, what? There's a solution, and like lean in or something, but I felt an emotional just kind of release when you said that, just hearing you ask that question. I think that's a great question.
Well, and they usually start to cry when I start to say, he's a great father, he's a great husband. Or if I'm talking about their child, this is the same little boy that crawled up in your lap when he was 3 years old and hugged you around the neck and said, I love you, Mommy. I don't ever forget that. I'm a husband, I'm a father, well before I'm a treatment professional. And I always want you to know that. I'll never forget it. During the intervention, I assure you that you guys aren't going to be the only one with tears in your eyes. I go at this like it's a life and death type of situation because I truly believe that it is. Every call is an urgent call. Some need to go to some are 911. Some, we just need to make a doctor's appointment and schedule that and go in. And so what we're going to try to do here is determine what yours looks like. And then we begin to see how we're going to structure the intervention and how that takes place. And with that, I have a 19-page questionnaire that every family member who's going to participate in the intervention must fill out. The first 9 pages is entirely about them. The second 10 are about what they observe from the person with the problem that they've called me about. And I ask them not to communicate in between one another, and I will not share those. I lay those things down, and I mean, it's like, gives me so much information, gives me so much power, allows me to tap in so deeply to that family. That's unreal. Then those questionnaires also go to the treatment center, which again are just awesomely great.
Why would you give those to the treatment center? I know why, but explain why you would want to give those to the treatment center.
Well, we give those to the treatment center because, believe it or not, let's just say your 22-year-old Johnny goes in there and doesn't have a clue why he is here. Or like, oh, I smoked some pot. But yet in there is written down that they found a meth pipe and a bag of meth and so on and so forth. So the counselor has information, the clinical team does. Now, they're not going to spring that on him and call him a liar and all of that, but they might, as treatment goes on, say, hey, listen, did your mom ever find a meth pipe in your drawer at some time? I think she did, didn't she? See, you got to know that we all shared and talked about you before you got here. So like, there's only one way I can help you. I can't treat a lie. I can't, can't treat a secret. So let's get honest. I'm not going to share with them what you're telling me, right? I mean, they don't share that.
Right.
But anyway, that's why I share those. Of course, the letters go to, and every family member has a letter that they write as well. So those pieces we still do. Entirely different type of letter than most. Never in there once are we saying, this is how I felt when you did. This is not the show intervention. This is the idea that, again, we're going to pull them with a vision. What about being a good father? What about being a great provider? What about, okay, when you did this, okay, I was so glad, I was so sick, and you brought me soup and tea and crackers, and I just felt the love. And we're painting those pictures. And this was just so great. So that's what we do. And then we do talk about something happened. Somewhere along the line, things began to change. And I just want to be the person that kind of helps steer that back. I don't know what piece I played in that. I don't know how big that piece was that I played in that. But I know as a family, we all have to move forward. I do recognize the fact that this is a medical issue as far as addiction, dependency, any of that kind of goes. But I also understand this is a family gig. I'm bought in. I'm bought in to take care of my own stuff. So, and that's where we go. And then we have to structure each one individually. I cannot say that I have done 2 identical interventions back to back in ever. Last year, we did a ton of them. And this year, we've been about as busy. But because I was running too hard, I did have to back off a little bit and just give some away and ask those folks to reach out to some other people. And that is what we do as interventionists and stuff as well. I don't want to go in unless I'm 100%.
Yeah, so do you have a team?
I do.
Okay. So you have a team of people that you work with that can do interventions or come alongside because it warrants someone else being there sometimes. So it's good to know, and just let people know there's a team. But we're approaching like the intervention day, the setup, whatever it is, whether it's a coffee meeting or it's a go to the house or the insurance office or however it's staged. What happens that day? Like what does that process look like?
Well, we all bring our catch nets.
You're not going anywhere. You're staying here.
And well, one of my team members, her name is Emily Hartman. She's been working for me for 3 years. She, through the letters and through the family questionnaires, already knows who's supposed to sit next to who and around by whom. All right. We also know if it's going to be a table or it's going to be an open and catchment environment. All right. So every individual is individually placed around that room. And whether she's going to be a piece of it or not, she still helps me with all of that. Okay, she is part of the team no matter what. Then but even prior to that, let me just say, we go in, we talk to each family member, try to get a feel for them in person. How nervous are they? Are they willing to commit? Are they fully committed? Are they 100% committed? Do they realize that this, like, if the husband's a powerful businessman, guess what? I'm the coach in this. You have to listen and follow my direction. Can you do that? Well, this is still my family. I need to know that you're going to follow. I will excuse people in a heartbeat. And I've had some people really get their hair up on the back of their neck. We actually excused a mother and a father out of an intervention, and 4 siblings were there to facilitate the intervention. And it was very successful.
Did you excuse them the day of, or was this kind of like before the intervention happened? Because I know sometimes you got to kick them out of the moment, but was it during the actual intervention? Or
when we brought everybody together to talk with them about what we were going to do just prior to staging, I said, this won't work. I conversed with Emily. We went off to the side. We came back, and I told her that. I said, this won't work. She goes, I am so glad you said that, because it really won't. So then we pulled them off to the side and said, you know what? You're too emotionally wrapped up in this. You guys are just way too touchy-feely right here. You're angry and you're hurt, and we're not going to be able to protect you through this process. I'm going to ask you to do something that's going to be very difficult. You've paid me to be the professional in this. Do you trust me? The mom said yes. The dad folded his arms. I said, I need you to trust me here. You think you could trust me? He said, I guess so. And I said, I need you to relax and show me that you can trust me. And I looked down at his arms, put him down to his side. I said, we can do this. The help I need from you two is that you're both believers. Get upstairs and start praying. And that's what they did. And I said, no matter what, do not come down those stairs. No matter what, do not come down those stairs. And then when we were done, told the young man, your mom and dad, he asked, so where are they? We're going to invite them into this process, just not right now. They just came down the stairs, hugged him, told him how proud they were of him. That was it. That was it. No letter read from them, nothing. Just, we couldn't even get the letters typed. I mean, we couldn't get them down. We couldn't get them down. So anyway, so we will excuse. So we do that. We practice the process. And through that process and that, Emily and I are both the client at that point, and then we'll switch off being that, just through that process. And sometimes all of a sudden she'll just throw out the bitch, and sometimes I'll just throw out the bastard and see how they respond. I'll stand up and we instruct them what they need to do and all of that. You see their reactions, and she'll help me sit down, or I'll help her sit down. And so we practice the process, because again, it is a process and emotions run high. Again, some interventions, first letter read, they start crying and they say, what do you want me to do? I want you to get help. Folks, let's go get them help. And we also have the families write out what they're willing to do. And then they all have to read those as well. Not to the person in the intervention, because that would just take way too long. But they have to read that out in the group to us. And then we ask them to pass those to us. And then as they start to, we go, oh, but before you do, would you guys mind signing the bottom of them?
That makes it more real, doesn't it?
We hope so.
Yeah.
We hope so. So that's just one of the processes, you know. And we sometimes, you know, we like the invitational. We like the process where we can counsel with the family and all of that. Let the individual know that there's counseling going on and all of that. Then ask them to come to the process, and when they do, and that. We do it a little differently. We don't always invite that person to go to treatment the first meeting. We just ask if everybody would be willing to come back. And in fact, we have time tomorrow, so can we come back and do this again tomorrow?
Wow. I mean, and that kind of gives them, it's because you said something earlier, I forget what you said, but it's like you want them to not only buy into the process, but see that this is an opportunity for them to better themselves outside of the family dynamics, to get help. And so you're in the process of the data, whether it's the invitational or the Johnson model, or just sitting down and just whatever it looks like. But the person, you have one of two things that's going to happen, right? Let's say the first thing you were talking about, where they come and they don't know anybody's going to be there. It's like, what the heck? Who the heck are you? And then one of two things happens. Like, you ask that question, they break down and say, okay, I'll go. Like, so there's that case scenario. What do you do from that point? Do you go with them? Do you take them? How do you decide what treatment center? Do you get paid by a treatment center to take someone to a treatment center? Talk about that too. I know the answer, but again, tell people.
Nobody, if your interventionist is getting paid to take them to a treatment center, hire a different interventionist.
There you go. That's important for people to hear. Say that one more time.
If your interventionist is getting paid by the treatment center, get a different interventionist. Simple as that. Do I work more closely with some treatment centers than others? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have my favorites. Okay. And there's reasons for that. They're go-tos, because I know about the person going to break out of treatment before the family does, so that I can help gear the family as well. Right. There's some that, believe it or not, get a consent from the client every single time we do an intervention. And most treatment centers, a lot of treatment centers aren't very good at that, because they're pissed at the interventionist. Well, also, I'll say this: if they're pissed at the interventionist, that means your interventionist slam dunked them. We let them know we're here at your family's request. We're here to help you and your family. We work as hard for you as them. What you tell me on an individual basis isn't going to them. And so we try to build that trust level.
Tell people what you mean by consent, though, because they may not understand. Like, their level goes to treatment.
When they go to treatment and stuff, when they go to treatment, they have to sign a consent to release for the treatment center to talk to you, the family, as well as anybody else on the outside. Their rights are protected. It's called HIPAA. Whether you're in a medical hospital or you're in a clinical hospital, you're protected. The client is protected. Now, you can call and talk to them no matter what. But as far as the family member, you can tell them everything you want to tell them. Them being able to share certain things with you, not so much.
They can't even tell you if they're there.
That's right. Sometimes you might call and they'll say, I can neither confirm nor deny. Okay. And if they could yesterday and they can't today, that means their person's pissed off and they're probably trying to leave. But if your interventionist has chosen a very good treatment center, have no fear, they're trying to keep them there. Okay. They're doing their very best. And they're fighting to keep them focused and going. It means also that they've touched on something.
Yeah, they hit that nerve, right, and they're in treatment, and boom. So our friend, our loved ones now in treatment, they're getting help. There's Who knows how long they'll be there. I was just kind of say they'll be there until they need to come home.
Yep.
It's not a 28-day was created by, as my understanding in the history, insurance companies. It's 28 days of treatment is the number they threw out there. But it's, in my opinion, it's your loved one will come home, or they might just stay there and reinvent their life, which happens a lot of times too. But now the family's at home, right? Loved ones in treatment, they're doing good. Communications are kind of opened. Now the family's at home, family to hear, like, here's now, what are they going to be doing to kind of maybe get back on the track? You touched on a little bit earlier, but, they should be doing things as well in preparation to learn the same lingo and language. And so the whole family's getting healing now, and so-and-so is about to come home back to the family. And what does that look like for them when they come back? Because there's a lot of different things they can do in recovery to stay on the right track. Sober living, PHP, IOP, all those things. But what do you recommend just for people? I know it's case by case, but generally, what is good for them to plug into?
Well, one thing we try to do, and again, I don't case manage a lot, but what I do, I know the discharge date's coming down, and that I will reach out to the family and I'll say, so I understand Johnny's coming home. Tell me what that looks like to you. What have you been doing? How are you doing? What's going to go on? What are you going to do day one? What are you going to do day one? Well, we're going to make him go to I got another idea. Why don't you all go to dinner? Why don't you come home, go to dinner, if he gets home early enough, and then possibly go to a meeting. Okay? But let's plan some idea that you're coming back to the family too, that this is not a life lived in a 12-step meeting. This is a life lived. I'm a big 12-step believer, but let's truly begin to live, because that's what's going to be important. He's not going to stay sober in meetings. He's going to stay sober in recovery.
Focus on recovery tools, not relapse prevention all the time.
Oh,
it's like it's like what are things you learn to help keep you moving in the right direction? And
right. You go into Al-Anon, you go into parents helping parents, parents supporting parents. There's all kinds of different groups out there. Are you going to some different groups? Are you going to maybe a woman support group or a man support group? What are you doing there? What are you doing for you?
There you go.
What about his younger brothers and sisters? We don't want them walking on eggshells either.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the treatment centers have done a really good job.
Well, especially the ones that you said, you vet them, you visit, I think, probably every single one you ever refer to, and meet the clinical staff, the medical directors, all those kind of things, which is really huge. And so I think three questions kind of pop into my head is, one is, why should somebody use you, and can't they just do this on their own? Okay, so let's answer that one first. Like, couldn't they just do this on their own without you?
The answer is absolutely, possibly.
Right.
Okay. Here's what happens when they hire an interventionist. First of all, the expertise. 1983, I did my first intervention. I went to the Johnson Institute. Dr. Vern Johnson was the father of intervention. I went to his institute in 1983 and learned the process. I started out in this industry doing interventions. That was a long time ago. Now, those were all surprises, shotguns, hey, here we come, rally the troops, all that. Through those period of years, and working in different treatment centers and in different modalities and all that, I developed my own style, and that there are all kinds of styles out there. There's the Rise, there is Jeff and Deborah J's, the Love First, and just some really awesome the different ways to do intervention. And to the general public, it's really they don't know. Okay, to anybody calling, they don't know. Well, one thing I can say is one size doesn't fit all. We have to adapt. Well, over 30 plus years, I've kind of learned to adapt. There's nothing that surprises me in an intervention, not a single thing. We keep a lid on things. We keep it calm, a peace. We keep them focused. It's really easy to start chasing rabbits and those kind of things, to get into talking back and forth. We don't allow that to happen. We keep them moving forward. We keep them focused on the solution. The reason for hiring a professional in that, again, is the stranger in the living room won't get as upset as the mother, the father, the husband, the wife, the son or the daughter, the aunt or the uncle.
Yeah.
It's not going to. We're gonna help. We're also gonna be of great comfort. If dad starts to get real upset and all that, I can calm. If mom, sister, whatever, we can calm. Or if I'm in a young person's intervention and all of that, my young guy and all that, he's very, very good. He can get them calm. I've got another lady that I use and all of that. She's very, very good. She's really good at what she does. And
Cool.
the reason is that we've done more than one. You shouldn't go out and find somebody who's, hey, I've been to treatment and that makes me an intervention expert. Please, no. That makes them a good member of a 12-step program.
Yeah, and you bring a calm and like you said, you manage the emotions in the room instead of families, which typically happens. When they call you, it's like, well, we tried to talk to him last month. Every time I would say, like, if mom talks to son about his drinking and drug use, whatever it is, that's an intervention, right? They're trying to disrupt the system, and I look at it as like you're disrupting the system to go a different direction than what is going on now, right? And so
we just actually a physician, a friend of mine, actually a psychiatrist, we actually just wrote a book.
Oh, cool.
It's called A Vision for Change.
Oh, I saw that on you had that on Facebook, I think. Yeah, Vision for Change. Yeah,
80-page pocket guide.
Yeah.
All that, and this talks about finding help at last, addiction and denial. Then each chapter is about a page and a half long. Intervention just isn't for the patient. Many times I got to do intervention on the family to get to the client.
Right. You got to have everyone buy into it, or it's not worth the journey. And
absolutely. So there's that. That's a plug.
Yeah. No, that's what I want people to understand is that there are different ways to approach helping your loved one, but to go into it just, and I get calls like you do, and it's like, they call and then they find out like, oh, as we talk through stuff at the end and say, okay, well, what do you charge to do interventions? And I'm like, well, here's where I start, but I'll go way down if I need to. I mean, it's expertise you're bringing, but there's also a point, like I am a guy in recovery myself, and I want people to get sober, get clean, the whole family dynamics to change and stuff. But along the way, you're making a living. And, if I had, $1 million sitting in the back, I'd do them for free all the time. Like there was a guy way back when he used to work with Harmony. I never knew. Is it Howie? Was that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just, you meet people where they are, and I know you're a stand up, straight up, well-respected, ethical guy that does things, the right way. And there's also a wrong way to do interventions. And I just want people to understand that, the benefit of using a professional is that you know what you're doing. You can help manage the emotions, come up with the right plan. And then if the plan changes, then it's like, okay, plan A didn't work. Well, we got a plan B and a plan C to help the family with the boundaries and things like that, which we didn't really talk about. But I know you have an addiction story, we might do that on a different show. But like, what do you get out of this? What is your personal benefit of doing interventions? Why the heck do you do
them? You can choke me. People get well.
People get well.
Families get well. The clients get well. Families come together. I just got a text yesterday and said, last year I said F you. Today, and he said, just the F and the U. Today I say TY.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why.
That's a beautiful thing, man. So you do amazing work. How do people find you?
Well, a lot of word of mouth. I mean, I've been around for forever, so people just call.
Yeah, but for someone that doesn't know you, it doesn't
And
have
if they don't know me and all of that, they can, the website, whitmanrecoveryservice.com. Facebook, Whitman Recovery Service. I would say, like I do Instagram and Twitter, but I don't do it with a darn. I'm too old. In fact, my granddaughter is just teaching me. All right. We were doing that this morning. I really stink at it. Those really are the avenues. So here's what also I will tell people. Not every time you call an interventionist, they need to show up in your living room. Last year, we did 48 interventions. 46 people ended up going to treatment. 42 of them stuck. They stayed all the way through. Now, out of that 48, that sounds like an enormous amount. My God, you were gone all the time and all that. Well, more than a dozen, I never even walked in their living room. Saved people an enormous amount of money. I said, I am going to show you how to actually structure this so that you can truly just ask them, will you go to treatment? And I'm going to show you how to bring that to them. Because if you really just ask them in a calming, caring, loving, family way of like going for, well, no, it always explodes. I'm going to show you how to deliver it. And if I think that process is actually there, I'm really going to do it. I'm going to save me a trip to Colorado. I'm going to save me a bunch of time out. They save a ton of money. And the people, I'm able to identify which ones can and can't. And when they say yes, done. If they say no, whatever they've paid me for my services, I just apply to the intervention anyway, and then we go and do it anyhow.
Right.
And
yeah.
then I'm like, look, man, I'm the man behind the curtain that was there for your first intervention. I just wasn't present. Now I am. My name is Rich Whitman, and it's such a pleasure to meet you. I've heard so much about you.
That's a great way, because you're like, we tried to do it this way. And sometimes I'll do that and say, hey, you think your husband will just meet me for coffee? I think maybe just coffee could be the key. Just have a guy to talk to him and connect with him. And then
have you ever even asked him?
Yeah. And if he says no, then sometimes I'll show up and say, well, we had a coffee date last week. We're here now because, we were trying to do this where we could just kind of connect one-on-one. But we can still do that today with your family, even here, man. But yeah, you care. So I appreciate what you're saying is people get well and you give them a vision for the rest of their life. And they can feel that. So you're giving, I see what you're saying is you're giving them back some self-worth and dignity that they lost along the way.
It is. And the family, how long have they tried to hide all of this? Especially when it's a son or a daughter. They really just don't want people knowing, yet their whole school knows. And it's a very tough jump. Or all their younger friends know and all of that. That's why they're not around. Or their playmates and playgrounds have all changed. That's because, so don't think nobody knows, because everybody already knows.
You're the last one to find out, you feel like.
All right.
There's a lot of questions in this project that we're doing, and we can't answer them all in the interview, but the one thing that is popping in my head, which I think comes up quite a bit too. Now, you have a demeanor about yourself, though, that's just calming and inviting and making people feel comfortable. I'm sure you get this question, and how do you talk about it? It's like, but if we do this intervention, he's going to leave me. He's going to be so mad and so angry that what if he doesn't go? He's going to he might, what if he kills himself if he gets so mad, and then the fear starts coming and they start going like rambling really fast. But how do you go about answering that question? He's going to hate me if I do this.
Well, you're going to lose him if you don't. You've already losing yourself because you're allowing the power of the alcoholism to take your own identity away. And it has you taken prisoner. Isn't it time to get free? Now, if they keep saying, if you ever do this or if you do this, I'm going to kill myself, that's a defense mechanism, and that's what they're doing. They've got you prisoner. They absolutely have you prisoner. The other side of it is, who would leave somebody for coming at them and delivering to them, I love you so very, 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 very much. And that's why you invited strangers into our living room? It is because I sought the best professional help for myself, for the family, and of course you, because you're part of that. It's what I can tell them. And I also have to say this, I haven't really seen it happen yet, and I've only done 1,000. I don't know how many I've done. I put on my website that I've done over 500 because I didn't know. And when my website people ask me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to sound arrogant. I'm not going to say 1,000, 1,500 and all that. So just put 500. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know how many I've done. I just know I've done an enormous amount of these folks. And again, and the last half dozen plus years, last dozen years, I've done them all with the idea of like, look, there's solutions. Let's quit focusing on the problem. I didn't get sober focusing on the idea that I had a drug or alcohol problem. I got it by chasing the answer. The problem was already biting me in the butt. The good thing about it biting you in the butt is it's behind you. What's in front of you?
Lots of good visuals. Yeah, that front one would hurt. Well, this has been awesome. You're a great man. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. And I know families will get a lot of value out of this too. And
Thank you.
If you want to use Rich, reach out to him for intervention help, and his team. And it's good stuff. So thank you very much. And is Whitman with a 1 T or 2 T's?
Just with 1 T. And just like the chocolates or the writer. And if I was relative to either one, I don't know what I'd be doing, but probably, I don't know if I would have ever done this or not. Probably with Walt. Yeah, I would have, because he was a heavy drinker. But nonetheless, just 1 T. You can also call me, and I have a San Antonio, Texas number.
Okay.
Which is 210-291-0278.
There you go. I always say when people give their number out, respect it, call it when you need it, don't abuse it, but just call, and that's the hard thing, is just picking up that call. Well, anyway, congrats on being a published author now, which is really cool. You're changing lives, you're disrupting systems, you're helping people get well. And all in all, it's up to the people to do the work. So if you're in the process of getting help currently, but you're not doing the work, you got to do the work, or it's just not going to go anywhere. So you have an awesome day, Rich. God bless you, man. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rob. Have a great day.
You got it.
Bye-bye.